Hello, hello, hello. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to another Motivation Monday, Coffee with Kevin. I am Kevin McCrudden, Mr. Motivation and America's CMO, Chief Motivation Officer. Thanks so much for watching this video and hopefully reading a fairly deep Motivation Monday column this week. I recently was doing some journaling in my Namaste journal, which is really amazing. You can get it online. And yesterday, Dr. Deepak Chopra had an article that he wrote about where do we go when we die? A pretty deep conversation, right? And so, I read it a couple of times and, who am I to argue, debate on a topic such as where do we go when we die, or to debate or question Deepak Chopra, right? And I asked myself, who was I to create, the first media convergence model in America when the internet just started to take off, right? And I spent, probably 3 years, 4 years traveling almost every state in America talking about this media convergence model and convincing publishers and people in the media that it was accurate, essentially. And then, who was I to write my first book, Who Are You? Become the Very Best You That You Can Be, where I introduced the most significant addition to Dr. Abraham Maslow's brilliant, hierarchy of needs, which is essentially taught in almost every high school and university in the world, the idea of Maslow's hierarchy of needs and that idea of self-actualization or fulfillment. And then who am I to, introduce and be the only person in history to introduce a day dedicated to motivation, inspiration, have it passed by the United States Congress and New York State? I guess in some ways I keep on finding myself in this space where I introduce things that maybe other people haven't thought of, or maybe they didn't think of it the way I thought of it. This one, though, is pretty deep. This is pretty deep in the sense that for many of you that have been following my globally award-winning transformational, which I don't use lightly, documentary, The Light of Man, is pretty profound and pretty deep. And so when I read Dr. Chopra's explanation of what he describes as, where we go when we die, which didn't seem to draw any real conclusions. He incorporates science, and he incorporates consciousness, he incorporates quantum physics. But there was a couple of things that were missing, and that's which has led me to this video and to this lengthy Motivation Monday column this week. So Dr. Chopra is an expert. There's no question, right? He's an MD. He understands consciousness. He's been writing about this stuff, oneness. He's been writing about this stuff for 30 years, right? Just a beloved man. I think there's so many of us that love him and respect him. In this article, though, he's missing a couple of pieces. One is in our movie, The Light of Man, I do an extensive interview with a peer of Dr. Chopra's, Dr. John Hagelin. Dr. John Hagelin is a world-renowned physicist. So he knows science and quantum physics and string theory and cutting-edge science and quantum physics about as well as anyone. He also was a protege of Maharishi Mahesh Yogi, which Dr. Chopra also was, and he happens to be the president of Maharishi International University in Iowa. Maharishi, we use a couple of really powerful statements from Maharishi in the movie. And then let's call it like for like. Many of the things that Dr. Chopra talks about and is an expert in the movie, The Light of Man, we have Dr. John Hagelin, who is also an expert, plus he's an expert in quantum physics and is a world-renowned physicist, as well as being the head of transcendental meditation in North America. So just an incredibly intelligent, powerful, amazing man. And so let's call it like for like. In the movie, we have a lot of the comments and thoughts in education that Dr. Chopra talks about in his article about where do we go when we die. Here's a couple of missing pieces. The one missing piece is this idea of near-death experiences, NDEs. In the movie, I do an extensive interview with Dr. Raymond Moody. Dr. Moody is considered sort of one of the founding fathers of NDEs, or the near-death experience movement. And it's taken him a long time, and he's interviewed thousands of people. And in the movie, he actually says the thing that got him started was something that was written by like Aristotle or Plato. It was Plato. And so literally, he was inspired by something that Plato wrote, and he then became motivated to take action in this area of NDEs, which most people hadn't been talking about when he started it in the 60s. And so now he's interviewed, and he is a medical doctor, as well as a psychologist and a philosopher. And so now he's done extensive research and thousands of interviews with people that have died and came back. That's right. They've died and they came back. They had near-death experiences. They essentially died and came back. And almost all of them talk about being drawn to this bright white light. And this is where I think Deepak Chopra misses the point, is why didn't he take this extra step to interview or talk about? It's not one crazy person that's saying, oh, hey, I traveled through a tunnel and there's a white light and I met, God or whatever. This is thousands of people. And listen, when we listen to pharmaceutical commercials and pharmaceutical, research, I mean, they interview or they do tests on maybe a couple of dozen people and they call it scientific research. Dr. Moody has interviewed thousands of people. I kind of call this empirical research, and maybe let's call it facts, because thousands of people have verified it to be true. And so we're not making something up. It's not my opinion. It's something that we're verifying through thousands of people saying they've had similar experiences, that when they died or passed, they moved into a bright white light, and in through that light, which they say they feel this immense love, this intense love. So they're saying the white light and the love are almost irreversible, that they're one and the same kind of, which is what we think God is, right? So in the light of man, what I essentially say, and this is the thing that clearly, distinctly makes it different than almost anything else or anything that's been done before, I know, crazy once again, is this idea that the very spark at the start of life, which is a scientific fact, which has been proven, there is an actual spark. They call it sulfur. They say it's a chemical reaction. I'm saying it's the light of God. That's right. That spark at the moment of creation, at conception, which happens for every living being, every living animal, every plant, it actually does. So this isn't just human beings, it's everything, every living thing. And so that spark of light, I'm saying, is God. So in many ways, the light of man is like a scientific study. I have a hypothesis. The hypothesis is that from light we come and light we return. That at that very moment of creation, of conception, that this spark of light, which is God, gives us life. And we live our entire lives with that light, with that energy, because we also know, empirical fact, that doctors, police officers, firefighters, soldiers, EMTs have watched the light go out in someone's eyes. That's right. The light or energy that you're born with goes out when you die and you pass. Where does that light go? Well, according to thousands of people, that light goes into a light tunnel that brings you to this incredible joy and love and light of God or Creator or higher power or Allah or Elohim or Brahman or Krishna, whatever you want to call it, we keep on getting stuck on this word that we use because of our religious teachings and because of dogma. We want to use a word that we're comfortable with. Guys, we don't know the answer. God, all right, don't take offense if we use God. Let's call it higher power. Let's call it creator. Let's, whatever you want to call it. 95% of us believe it to be true. 95% of the planet believes in God or a higher power. Why are we fighting over what we all believe to be true? I'm not sure. So the light of man is really a call to world peace. It's a unifying story about people believing in the same thing, and it's confirming that that light, that energy that we carry throughout our lives is actually God. And in this case, Deepak Chopra doesn't go to that conclusion. Deepak Chopra uses science and consciousness and other things, but does not come to an actual conclusion. Whereas in the movie, The Light of Man, the documentary, which is one best movie, spiritual movie, short movie in 8 places around the world, in Los Angeles, Las Vegas, New York, London, Paris, Rome, Cannes, France, Delhi, India. People of all walks of life have confirmed this to be a powerful movie. And when you read the actual testimonials and quotes, you won't believe the quotes from really amazing people. So anyway, as I was journaling and writing in my Namaste book, I felt it was important for me to take this opportunity to question Dr. Chopra and his conclusions of where do we go when we die? Because the reality is, which I believe, and I say in the movie, the Native Americans and indigenous people kind of had it right. They were talking about consciousness and oneness before we even knew what consciousness or oneness was. It was a part of their belief system, is that we are in part of the earth and part of the universe and all the planets. That's what they believed. That's what they taught. And in the native ancient Sanskrit, they use the phrase namaste. They still use the word namaste. But if you look up namaste in Google, it says, I bow to you. That wasn't the meaning. And when you go to yoga, in yoga teachers will say, well, the light in me acknowledges the light in you. That's closer. But you know what? I think the ancient Sanskrit meaning was closer to the divine light of God within me acknowledges the divine light of God within you. In one word, namaste. Brilliant. I think just absolutely brilliant. And that's 5,000 years old. The Native Americans and indigenous people, the Sanskrit native Indians that lived 5,000-6,000 years ago, they got it. They knew it. And we've done a terrible job of embracing that. We've been divided by all of this dogma and different beliefs, when in fact we all believe the same thing, that we all believe in God or a higher power, and that we are a part of that as a globe, as a world, and that we can use this common belief that we are all a part of something bigger than ourselves, as something that can bring us together in a movement towards world peace. So I hope you enjoy the article. It's lengthy, it's deep. This video is a little bit deeper, longer than I intended. So I hope you enjoy the article. And really, I look forward to hearing your comments. Please watch the movie, The Light of Man. I've created a couple of links in here, and I look forward to your thoughts and feedback. And Dr. Chopra, if you get this, please, no offense. I hope that you read the article and take this in the light that it is intended. My love and deepest respect. And God bless and namaste to you all. This week's Motivation Monday Coffee with Kevin, a little deep. And I hope that you all have a great, blessed week. And I look forward to hearing from you after you've watched. the light of man. God bless. Bye-bye.